Mysteries and study of unknown has always intrigued humans. Search for truth has been mankind's biggest motivator to move ahead. Here is a compilation of top 20 modern unsolved mysteries of the world. These mysteries are wide in scope and include mysteries from all over the world. 20. Marlovian theory. The Marlovian theory, which began as early as 1895, holds that the plays traditionally attributed to William Shakespeare were actually written by Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe was an English poet and playwright of Elizabethan era. He was born in the same year as Shakespeare was born and mysteriously died early. The Marlovian theory theorizes that Christopher Marlowe faked his death in 1593 instead of being killed by his patron. It is believed that he was facing imminent death for heresy charges and faked his death to save himself. The first licensed work from Shakespeare, Venus and Adonis, was issued on April 4, 1593, just a month before Marlowe's death. William Shakespeare's first record of being an actor only appeared on December 1594. Some believe that both seem to have discernibly similar writing style. Whatever really happened at that fateful night in 1593 may never fully be understood. Those who follow the Marlovian theory believe it to be the only way that Christopher Marlowe could have continued to live freely and pursue his continued love of writing. 19. Contents of the Great Library of Alexandria. Great Library of Alexandria was destroyed in a Roman conquest of Egypt in 30 BC. Countless texts and documents were reduced to indiscernible ash. It was one of the largest library in the world and was charged with collecting all of world's knowledge. Alexandria was an international hub for trade as well as the leading producer of papyrus and books. Alexandria had 2 ports for trades and books were pulled off every single ship that came into the ports. They kept the original texts and made copies to send back to their owners. Books were also donated by travelers from all over the world. The library was also a research institution and home to a host of international scholars. The library was filled with works on mathematics, astronomy, physics, natural sciences and other subjects. It is now impossible to determine the collection's size and content with any certainty. It is considered one of humanity's greatest losses. 18. SS Arang Medan. In June of 1947, 2 American vessels sailing the Strait of Malacca in Indonesian waters received a distress call from a Dutch merchant ship, Arang Medan. Message read, "All officers including captain are dead lying in chartroom and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead," followed by a final transmission, "I die." One of the American ship, SS Silver Star, attempted to hail the ship, but to no avail. When they boarded the ship, they found the deck littered with corpses. The entire crew was dead, including a dog aboard the ship. The bodies of the crew all showed signs of being frozen in terror at the moment of death. Their facial expressions horrified, teeth bared, eyes pointing at the sky. They had no visible signs of trauma. While trying to haul the ship to port, the ship caught on fire. The ship finally exploded and sank. This whole story could be a hoax as there is no evidence of official registration of the ship, or perhaps the ship was never registered due to the nature of its activities. Theories of illegal smuggling of nerve gas or hazardous chemical in the cargo to carbon monoxide poisoning and paranormal phenomenon have been suggested to reason the death of its crew. 17. Egyptian tomb in the Grand Canyon. In April of 1909, the Phoenix Gazette ran a story for 2 days about Egyptian artifacts supposedly found in the Grand Canyon. This story spanned several pages. According to the story, under the direction of Professor S.A. Jordan, the Smithsonian Institute is now prosecuting the most thorough explorations, which will be continued until the last link in the chain has been forged. About 1,480 feet below the surface, the long main passage has been delved into, to find another mammoth chamber from which radiates scores of passageways, like the spokes of a wheel. Several hundred rooms were discovered, reached by passageways running from the main passage, one of them having been explored for 854 feet and another 634 feet. They found war weapons, copper instruments sharp-edged and hard as steel, indicating the high state of civilization reached by these strange people. There was also a tomb in which mummies were found as one of the largest chambers. There were several other notable artifacts that resembled Egyptian in origin. If this was true, it would support the theory of pre-Columbian trans-oceanic contact hypotheses. Archaeologists from Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. have completely denied of any such finds in 1909 on recent inquiries. 16. Devil's Footprints. On February 7 and 8, 1855, the people of Devonshire in England awoke to find strange footprints throughout their small town. They were surprised to discover tracks of some strange and mysterious biped animal. The footprints were seen in all kinds of inaccessible places, on the tops of houses and narrow walls, in gardens and courtyards enclosed by high walls and palings, rivers, through tunnel walls as well as in open fields. Footprints closely resembled that of a donkey shoe, measuring 1.5 to 2.5 inches across and 8 inches in advance of each other. The creature seems to have approached the doors of several houses and then to have retreated. There has been a similar recorded sighting by Captain Sir James Clark Ross in the Kerguelen Island of South Pole in 1840. Captain reported of finding no animals and simply tracks resembling that of donkey. The men eventually gave up looking for the creature as it passed over a large area of rocks and the tracks were lost. Nearly 154 years later, similar footprints were encountered in Woolsey, North Devon in England in March of 2009. 15. Oh My God particle. The Oh My God particle detected over Dugway Proving Ground, Utah in 1991 was probably a proton traveling at almost the speed of light, 99.99%. It allegedly carried the same kinetic energy as a baseball traveling at 90 km/h. Most cosmic ray particles are of low energy and arise locally from solar flares. Another more energetic class of cosmic particles are thought to originate from elsewhere in the galaxy. They probably come from supernovae. Then there are extragalactic cosmic rays, which are of the Oh My God variety, with energy levels exceeding 1015 electron volts and rarely even 1020 electron volts, are more formally known as ultra-high energy cosmic rays. These particles travel very close to the speed of light and must have had a heck of a kick to attain such speeds. It is proposed that extragalactic cosmic rays are spun up in supermassive black holes. Furthermore, they estimate that nearly all extragalactic cosmic rays that reach Earth come from Centaurus A. It is unclear who or what sent these particles on course to Earth. 14. Lead masks case. The lead masks case refers to the discovery of the bodies of two electronic technicians in Brazil in 1966. The bodies were found in a field wearing impermeable coats and lead masks, usually used to protect against radiation. Even stranger was the discovery of a small notebook beside their bodies with signs and numbers, and a letter in which was written, 1630B at the agreed place. 1830 swallow capsules, after effect protect metals wait for the mask sign. A waitress who was the last to see them alive said that one of them looked very nervous and kept glancing at his watch. There were no obvious injuries on the bodies. This area was considered to be an UFO hotspot and people reported they had seen a UFO flying over the spot around the time of their death. Autopsies failed to lend any answers. They had a water bottle and its receipt with them to return those bottles, so suicide probably was ruled out. There simply was no cause that could be found as to why these men died. 13. Oak Island, Money Pit. Among the 360 small islands south of Nova Scotia, Canada is Oak Island. Oak Island's history tells of an impenetrable cache of treasure located in a vault known as the Money Pit. Attempts to retrieve the bounty since 1700s have been fruitless and many have died in their attempts to do so. The pit was first discovered in 1795 by a young man named Daniel McGuinness. Above it, hanging from the limb of a large oak, was an old pulley system. On excavation together with his friends he found layer of flagstones and further down a man-made shaft. Tired from their efforts, they decided to cease work. In 1803, owners of Onslow Company continued excavation. At 90 feet they found a flat stone bearing an indecipherable inscription and beneath that possibly a wooden chest. They decided to discontinue for the evening, but in the morning the whole shaft was flooded and they were forced to discontinue. From then until now the ownership of the island has changed hands many times. Over a dozen attempts to re-excavate the pit by several in search for the fabled treasure has resulted in the shafts flooding at a certain depth. Critics argue that there is no treasure and that the apparent pit is a natural phenomenon. Artifacts found during excavations include a cipher stone, a perfectly triangular stone, Christian cross, heart-shaped stone, Freemasonic symbols and a piece of gold chain. 12. Out-of-place artifacts. Out-of-place artifacts are objects that are found in archaeological sites and are predated to a time long before modern discovery of the technology used by them. 3 of the following are fascinating. Antikythera Mechanism. The Antikythera Mechanism is believed to be an ancient mechanical calculator designed to calculate astronomical positions. It was discovered in the Antikythera wreck off the Greek island of Antikythera. It has been dated to about 150 to 100 BC. Other machines using technology with such complexity would not appear until the 18th century. While intense research is finally answering the question of what this mechanism did, we actually have no idea how people back then were able to accomplish a technological feat so complex. Baghdad Battery. The Baghdad Battery was discovered in the village of Kuwait Rabua near Baghdad in Iraq in 1936. These artifacts came to wider attention in 1938 when German director of the National Museum of Iraq found the objects in the museum's collections. In 1940, he published a paper speculating them to be galvanic cells, perhaps used for electroplating gold onto silver objects. The artifacts consist of 5-inch tall spherical flat-bottomed terracotta jars with 1.5-inch wide mouth. It contained a copper cylinder made of a rolled-up copper sheet, which houses a single iron rod. At the top, the iron rod is isolated from the copper by asphalt plugs and it all fits snugly inside the opening of the jar. On the 29th episode Mythbusters, aired on March 23, 2005, Baghdad Battery myth was put to the test. 10 Baghdad batteries were made and lemon juice was chosen as the electrolyte to activate the electrochemical reaction between the copper and iron. When all of the batteries were linked together in series, they produced upwards of 4 volts. The major question remains is, what were they really used for? Kumbaya airplanes. Pictured above is one of about dozen golden Kumbaya airplanes found in Colombia. They were made by the Kumbaya civilization, dated around 1000 AD. Proponents of ancient astronaut theories claim them to represent modern airplanes, and therefore to be out-of-place artifacts. These figurines measures 2 to 3 inches each. Archaeologists describe them as depicting birds, lizards, amphibians and insects that were abundant in the region that have been highly stylized. In 1994, 3 Germans, Algund Einboom, Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers created simplified radio-controlled scale models of these objects that actually flew. 11. Spontaneous human combustion. Spontaneous human combustion is the alleged mysterious process in which a person simply bursts into flames for no apparent reason. Further, these flames appear to be localized to the victim and seem to have a very high temperature. Flames incinerate most of the body, but leave objects in close proximity to the victims relatively unscathed. Dr. John Bentley is alleged to have died of spontaneous combustion in Pennsylvania in 1966. The spot where the body lay was burnt, but the rest of the room was left untouched by flames. Only the bottom of his one leg remained that helped in his identification. In another case, Mrs. M.H. Reeser of Florida apparently died of spontaneous combustion in 1951. The only things remained was her skull that shrunk to the size of an orange. Crematorium specialists say they cannot duplicate the complete destruction of bones in such a short period of time. One theory is ball lightning, which could produce similar results, but locations of these victims seems to elude this possibility. Does the body have chemical reactions that science has yet to discover? 10. Bei Gong pipes. In the remote Qinghai province there is a mystery that has yet to be satisfactorily explained, and is off limits by Chinese government. Near the summit of Mount Bei Gong stands a 60 meters pyramid. At the base of this pyramid are 3 caves. In these caves, elsewhere around the mountain and nearby Lake Tosan run lines and lines of what look like old lead-based pipes. Local countrymen have known about the pipes for centuries. 2 of the 3 caves at the base of the pyramid have collapsed and are inaccessible. Only 1 cave now remains accessible. Oddly enough, on the roof of the cave a pipe 40 centimeters in diameter bumps out on an angle. Another pipe of the same diameter is seen on the floor of the cave, disappearing into the ground. There are more pipes outside the cave at ground level that range in 2 centimeters to 10 centimeters in diameter. More pipes are scattered around lake and on lake floor. Initial analysis of the pipe material found it to be indeed incredibly old, and consisting of iron oxide, silicon dioxide, calcium oxide and the other 8% of unidentifiable content. Similar pipe structures have been discovered in Louisiana. These are deemed to be naturally formed by some scientists. No more official information has been released on this subject by China. 9. Kryptos. Jim Sanborn designed the puzzling S-shaped Kryptos sculpture in 1989. It was later placed in the Courtyard Plaza of the CIA in Langley, Virginia. There are 4 sections to the sculpture, each containing an encrypted message. 3 of the 4 coded messages have been cracked. The 4th one has yet to be deciphered, and is considered one of the most famous unsolved codes in the world. Kryptos' first 3 coded messages were cracked in 1999 by a computer scientist from Southern California named James Gilligley. In 2005, Ms. Monet Friedrich, a computer engineer from Vancouver, British Columbia, discovered an error in earlier deciphers that was confirmed by Sanborn. The 4th coded message has yet to be solved. It is the hardest, arguably, because it is the shortest of the 4 messages, containing only 97 characters, so it is harder to find patterns. Recently, Sanborn revealed a clue to the New York Times: the characters that are the 64th through 69th in the final series on the sculpture read NYPVTT. When deciphered, they read Berlin. There is an online community dedicated to solving this puzzle. 8. Buzzing, the hum. The hum is a low-pitched sound heard in numerous places worldwide, especially in the USA, UK, and Northern Europe. It is usually heard only in quiet environments, and is often described as sounding like a distant diesel engine. Since it has proven undetectable by microphones or VLF antennae, its source and nature is still a mystery. In 1997, Congress directed scientists and observers from some of the most prestigious research institutes in the nation to look into a strange low-frequency noise heard by residents in and around the small town of Taos, New Mexico. Only a small percentage of the population has confirmed of hearing it. For years those who had heard the noise, often described by them as a Taos hum, had been looking for answers. To this day no one knows the cause of this hum. 7. The hum. Toynbee tiles are linoleum plaques which have been embedded in the asphalt roadways of about 24 major cities of United States and 4 South American capitals. They were first photographed in late 1980s. They are written in English, often lacking proper grammar and syntax. They are fairly easy to access and they have attracted the attention of many puzzle enthusiasts. No one really knows who is behind this. They contain some variation on the following inscription: Toynbee idea in movie *2001 Resurrect Dead on planet Jupiter. The tiles appear to be the work of a single person, initially thought to be James Morosco, a Philadelphia carpenter. Even after his death in 2003, new tiles continued appearing in Philadelphia. Tiles that are located in the middle of busy streets and highways tend to wear away quickly and hundreds have been destroyed, declaring them be vandalism. 6. The Hesteland light. Hesteland light is an unexplained light phenomenon that occurs in Hesteland Valley of Norway. They were observed over 15 to 20 times per week from 1982 until 1984. Since then, the activity has decreased and now the lights are observed about 10 to 20 times per year. The Hesteland light most often is a bright, white or yellow light of unknown origin floating above ground level lasting sometimes for more than an hour. Several other types of unexplained lights are observed in the Hestian Valley. In spite of numerous working hypotheses, there is no convincing explanation to the origin of these lights. 5. Dyatlov Pass Incident. At the end of January 1959, a Russian cross-country ski team ventured into the northern Ural Mountains. Intended expedition was a week-long skiing adventure to reach Orotin Mountain in Urals. They left Vizay, the last inhabited settlement far north, on January 27, but never came back alive. The trouble wasn't that the team disappeared. It was the state they were in when they were found. The campsite was abandoned with tent torn from inside. Searchers followed the recent footprints that led to the edge of nearby woods where they discovered the remains of a fire and 2 dead bodies. The first 2 bodies discovered were found shoeless and only wearing their underwear. Nearby, the searchers found 3 more bodies that appeared to have been trying to return to camp at that time. It wasn't until 2 months later that authorities would find the remaining 4 bodies in a ravine under 4 meters of snow quite a bit further from the camp. 2 of the hikers had skull damage, 2 had major chest fractures, and 1 woman was missing her tongue. They had no external wounds or injuries. There were no foreign footprints and there was no sign of a struggle. What's puzzling was that some of the victims were wearing each other's clothes. Examination concluded 6 of the group members died of hypothermia and 3 of fatal injuries. Medical examiner finally concluded that the group members all died because of a compelling unknown force. 4. UVB-76 radio station. UVB-76 is a mysterious shortwave radio station that was first observed in 1982 and has transmitted 24x7 ever since. It broadcasts almost nothing but 21 to 34 buzzes per minute, each lasting roughly a second, 24 hours a day. Very rarely, perhaps once every few weeks, the monotony is broken by a male voice reciting brief sequences and strings of alphanumeric codes and Russian names. Despite much speculation, its actual purpose remains obscure to the public. On June 5, 2010, the buzzing ceased and there was only silence. The following day, the broadcast resumed. Presently, the station's transmitter is believed to be near the town of Pskov in Russia. Today, the station's fan base includes conspiracy theorists, anarchists, hackers, and Kremlinologists. 3. Mass bird suicides of Jatinga in India. The village of Jatinga in the Dima Haseo district of Assam in India has a population of around 2,500. The village is world famous for its phenomenon of bird suicides. Most of the migratory birds visiting the area never leave the village and just drop to their death on the streets. The case gets even inscrutable in the sense that these birds plummet to their death precisely between 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on the moonless nights of September and October. These mass suicides only occur on a specific 1 mile by 600 feet strip of land, and this phenomenon is said to have occurred year after year without a break for more than a century. Many theories have been offered by scientists to explain this phenomenon, the most popular one being that these birds are attracted towards village lights that confuse them. Another theory that makes more sense is the presence of excessive magnetic field in the area that disorients them. Though more theories continue to arise, no one has yet been able to prove the exact explanation behind this phenomenon. 2. Wow! Signal. Jerry R. Emin was a volunteer researcher for the Ohio State University. On August 15, 1977, he detected wow! Signal. It was a strong narrowband radio signal. It was detected while he was working on a SETI project at the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio. Back in those days, such information was fed into IBM mainframe computers, printed onto a perforated paper, and manually examined. On that fateful day, something surprised Emin. He spotted a vertical column of alphanumerical sequence 6EQUJ5. Around 10 p.m. he grabbed a red pen and circled the sequence. In the margin, he wrote, "Wow." The source of the signal was determined to be from stars somewhat closer to Sagittarius constellation. About 35 years later, on August 17, 2012, a project directed by the National Geographic Channel and Arecibo Observatory beamed a package of digital data towards the source of the WOW signal. It consisted of Twitter messages from the public, submitted via the hashtag #ChasingUFOs, as well as videos from various celebrities. 1. The Valenta CH disappearance. Frederick Valenta was a 20-year-old pilot who on October 21, 1978 disappeared with his light airplane. He was on his scheduled flight from Moorabbin Airport to King Island in Australia. He disappeared, leaving no trace of him or his plane over Bass Strait. What intensifies the mystery is what Valenta reported seeing from his plane. Just minutes before going black, Valenta reported Melbourne Air Traffic Control that he was being companioned by another aircraft 1,000 feet above him. He described some strange maneuvers and features of the aircraft. He said that his engine had begun running roughly, and finally reported that the strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It is hovering and it's not an aircraft. He and his aircraft were never found. Finally, after tedious investigation, Australian Department of Transport concluded that the reason behind his disappearance was inconclusive. Thank you for watching. We make interesting, fun, sometimes weird videos on the persFACTive channel. Our goal is to provide you with catchy, interesting, funny, bizarre videos as often as possible. I hope I can make you have a couple of fun minutes. Please follow the channel for more information. See you in the next video.